Hello, my friend. In this video, I'm going to be comparing a whole bunch of different alternatives to Patreon, kind of going over the similarities and the differences so that ultimately you can pick the right membership platform or donation platform or whatever you're kind of trying to do to be able to monetize your art or your audience, anything like that. So with that said, let's jump right into this. So when choosing between Patreon and its alternatives, it's important that you look at what they allow you to offer your audience, what features that they offer you, and how their pricing works. And this is what you're going to be able to look at when trying to figure out what the right platform for you is. So before diving into the different alternatives and letting you know which ones I'm going to be hitting in particular, I wanted to let you know that I've also put together a pretty big article on this topic. So if you'd like to follow along, or if you prefer the written word format, simply Google Best Friends Club Patreon alternatives. I'm going to be updating this article over time. It's a lot harder to update a YouTube video. So as I look into more alternatives, this article here will get updated. So in this video in particular, what we are going to be comparing is Patreon to Buy Me a Coffee, to Ko-Fi, or Ko-fi rather, to YouTube channel memberships, and also comparing Patreon to itself with the Lite and the Pro plans. So in addition to updating this over time, I also want to take some time in this video as well as in this article to show you what to do once you've actually finally picked the right platform for you. Because if you do want to have a successful Patreon or membership or anything like that, you will definitely want to know how to get supporters and build an audience that actually wants to support you, how to create effective member tiers so that that audience actually wants to join your membership, and then actually learn how to deliver on your promises to make sure that supporters keep coming back for more and actually keep paying for that. So we'll dive into that at the end of this episode. You'll definitely love that. So let's get right into this. So starting off with Patreon versus Buy Me a Coffee. So although both Patreon and Buy Me a Coffee offer memberships and ways to communicate with your supporters, the things they allow you to offer to your audience and how they charge you are much different. The main difference between Patreon and Buy Me a Coffee is that Patreon focuses on recurring memberships, and Buy Me a Coffee focuses on offering a simple way for supporters to donate or make a purchase with less commitment. Patreon has a much bigger focus on recurring memberships and being a platform for creators that have specific and ongoing projects like releasing videos or content on a regular basis. Buy Me a Coffee, on the other hand, has a much bigger focus on offering a very simple way for your supporters to say thank you and show their support by donating without having to commit to a monthly membership or even having to sign up for an account at all, which is really cool. In particular, Buy Me a Coffee's pricing is much more simplified when compared to Patreon. There's only one plan to choose, and you get all of the features with that. They only take a 5% cut on that one plan, which when compared to Patreon, Patreon has 3 different plans, and Patreon will take anywhere between 5 and 12%. So why you might choose Patreon over Buy Me a Coffee. So when compared to Buy Me a Coffee, Patreon does have that bigger focus on recurring memberships and being a platform for creators that have a specific ongoing projects, releasing stuff on a regular basis. So if that's you, then Patreon may be better for you. On top of that, Patreon also seems to push itself as more of a serious option to create a sustainable career for creators by offering the ability to generate that recurring revenue, having full control over what you offer and full control over how you decide to schedule those offerings. So ultimately, it seems with Patreon, if you want to kind of seriously push a recurring membership to your audience, then Patreon is likely going to be a better option for you. When it comes to Buy Me a Coffee, so why might you want to choose Buy Me a Coffee over Patreon? When compared to Patreon, Buy Me a Coffee, like I mentioned, has a much bigger focus on offering simple ways to support for your supporters to say thank you and to show their support by donating and not having to commit to anything too crazy. Essentially, Buy Me a Coffee can be seen as more of an online tip jar that can lead to recurring memberships and is great for any individual who wants to accept donations without a particular project being worked on. Although you can still create a sustainable income with Buy Me a Coffee, it's definitely a lot more laid back, both in terms of what you offer and how your audience can support you. And so if that laid back approach is what you're kind of looking for, then Buy Me a Coffee could be a good thing. Also, these two can be combined quite easily. So moving on, we're going to take a look at Patreon versus Ko-fi. And the main difference between Ko-fi and Patreon is that Patreon focuses, again, on that more serious type of recurring memberships compared to where Ko-fi is a little bit more for casual content creators or people that want to dip their toes with memberships and monetizations. Ko-fi is quite similar to Buy Me a Coffee, actually, since there is a bigger focus on offering a simple way for your supporters to say thank you with less pressure for both creators as well as less pressure for supporters. When it comes to pricing, Ko-fi actually has one of the most generous pricing plans out there and is definitely simpler and way more generous when compared to what Patreon offers. So Ko-fi actually takes a 0% platform fee on donations, and they take a 5% cut on if you're offering memberships. They have a shop so if anybody purchases from the shop, they're going to take 5%. And in addition to this, that 0% can actually, that 5% can be turned into a 0% if you subscribe to the Ko-fi Gold subscription. And the cool thing about that is that's only $6 a month. So you could either do 5% on your memberships and shop purchases, or you can pay $6 per month and have no cut taken there at all. Well, again, Patreon has those 3 different plans, and they take anywhere between 5 and 12%. Patreon's heavier focus on pushing recurring memberships means that you will likely generate a more regular income, but you will be committed to creating bonus content in addition to regular content on a very consistent basis for your membership tiers to actually be effective and for patrons to want to stick around. So why might you choose Ko-fi over Patreon? So Ko-fi is perfect for more casual content creators or anyone looking to dip their toes in offering memberships, since creators are not obligated and pressured to create content regularly, and supporters in turn are not committed to donating regularly. When compared to Patreon, Ko-fi is a much more relaxed platform that is focused on those simple ways for supporters to show their support or donate anything like that through a donation, membership, or purchase. Similar to Buy Me a Coffee, Ko-fi can be viewed as more of an online tip jar where supporters can give donations to creators for what they are already creating without asking for too much in return for that donation. Although it is still possible to create a sustainable income with Ko-fi, the platform may not be for you if you're looking to run a more serious membership program, because there is less of a fire under your bum pushing you to actually grow that income, because it's just so much more chilled out and relaxed. So why might you choose Patreon over Ko-fi? So when compared to Ko-fi, there is again a much bigger focus on recurring memberships with Patreon, and it is really a platform for creators that have specific and ongoing projects and are going to be doing a lot of consistent ongoing work. Because there is more of a focus on committing to that regular content, Patreon can definitely be seen as a more serious option to create a sustainable career for creators. And again, if you want to seriously push a recurring membership to your audience, then Patreon is likely going to be a better option for you when compared to Ko-fi. Next, we're going to dive into Patreon, comparing Patreon to YouTube channel memberships. So right away, the main difference is that YouTube offers fewer membership tier features, but offers more engagement and discovery features, while having stricter content policies and taking a higher cut of your income when compared to Patreon. So in addition to this, it is much easier to get started at any time on Patreon than it is to actually meet the YouTube membership requirements that you need to be able to start running a channel membership with YouTube. Because of YouTube's strict policies and tendency to demonetize channels in particular, it can also be a very smart idea to use Patreon so that you have a separate revenue stream from YouTube to reduce your risk of basically losing all your income if you have everything all in YouTube, like kind of a all eggs in one basket kind of approach. So although you will need to create and manage different membership tiers on a separate platform, the cut that Patreon also takes is significantly less, and you can also get started at any time. So instead of having to wait to meet those YouTube requirements, which is about 1,000 followers, a couple of other things, but Patreon, you can get started when you have 0 followers, 1 follower, anything like that, which can be very nice for sure. With that said, YouTube channel memberships can definitely provide an easy way for your audience that's already on YouTube to easily join, and it's also much easier for you to be discovered since YouTube has a robust discovery features like the search engine and recommendations to actually get people to notice you and what you are offering in terms of a membership. So why might you choose Patreon over YouTube memberships? Patreon can be a better option than YouTube channel memberships for basically any creators that want to get started at any time, have more ways to offer content, and have a smaller cut taken, but at the same time don't mind creating for and managing a separate platform. In addition to this, Patreon is a really great way to diversify your income streams and make sure that you're not beholden to any one source. Because YouTube has a much stricter policy rules and it's quick to demonetize channels, that means that you can post content more freely with Patreon as well and not have to worry about randomly being shut down. Although you will need to create and manage different membership tiers on a separate platform, the cut that Patreon does take is significantly less and is much easier to get started at any time on Patreon than it is to meet the YouTube membership requirements. The cut that YouTube takes is about 30%, and even on the most premium of Patreon plans, they're going to take 12% away from you. And generally, you're going to be on the Pro plan, which is 8%, so it's significantly less with Patreon. With that said, why might you choose YouTube channel memberships over Patreon? YouTube channel memberships can be a better option than Patreon for any creators that want to keep their community in one place, not have to sign up for and maintain multiple platforms, or if you've already established an audience on YouTube. One of the main benefits of YouTube channel memberships is that you can provide an easy way for people on YouTube to join, and it's easy for you to be discovered since YouTube has robust discovery features like search and recommendations built in. This means that people that are already engaging or discovering you on YouTube can easily subscribe to the membership program without going anywhere else, and can easily pay, especially if they already have a card on file with YouTube or Google. So if they're paying for YouTube Premium or they've bought anything from Google, their card will be on file and be so easy for them to sign up for you. With that said, it can be difficult to meet the requirements for YouTube channel memberships. They do take a much larger cut than Patreon, and there can definitely be risks to not diversifying your revenue streams. Like I mentioned, YouTube is notorious for demonetizing channels often, and they actually make it quite difficult to fight this, as they will regularly side with larger corporations and automatically assume that those large corporations are in the right and that you are in the wrong. In addition to this, YouTube does have those much stricter content policies that I mentioned, which can really restrict what you are able to offer to your audience in terms of content, as well also in terms of perks and benefits and that kind of thing. So lastly, before really diving into what to do as a next step after picking a platform, I wanted to kind of compare Patreon against itself really quick by comparing Patreon Lite versus Patreon Pro. And really the main difference here is that Patreon Lite and Pro is that the Pro plan will take 8% of your earnings instead of 5% with the Lite plan. And also on that Pro plan, you can create individual membership tiers with the Pro plan. So basically, the Lite plan is 5% and you only have one tier available, whereas the Pro plan takes 8%, and it's really the classic Patreon thing where you're going to have multiple tiers to offer your audience. For all of their plans, Patreon takes a cut of your earnings instead of charging a monthly fee, which means you never actually need to pay Patreon directly to use their platform. Instead, Patreon fees are automatically deducted from your payout on a monthly basis based on which plan that you do choose. And on top of that, they do limit the features that you have available to you as a creator based on which plan you choose. Basically, the main thing is that ability to create individual membership tiers. So why might you choose Patreon Lite over Pro? Patreon Lite is a great option for creators that do not want to create and manage a full-blown membership with multiple tiers, and instead just want a simple way to offer their audience a way to support them on a monthly recurring revenue kind of basis. Patreon Lite is meant to be a simplified version of Patreon that can act as a first step or introduction to running a membership business. Because there are no membership tiers for this plan, it's just a lot easier to manage your page and also manage the memberships. Because when you have multiple tiers, you are going to have to communicate them potentially in different ways. It can complicate things and be a little bit, intense. Moving forward from that, why might you choose Patreon Pro over Patreon Lite? So simply, although the creator fees are the lowest, the main appeal of Patreon, that ability to create and charge for multiple membership tiers, is just not on the Lite plan. It's also worth mentioning again that you are not charged any upfront or setup fees with Patreon, which means that you can get started with any of the plans at all, and that Patreon that they have available, and not have to pay anything only until you're actually earning income directly from Patreon. So it's for these reasons that I'd probably recommend starting with the Pro plan so that you can fully build out your membership with tiers, and only consider upgrading to the Premium plan once you are earning some income from Patreon and feel like you need the additional features. If you know for a fact that you are not going to want to be managing those membership tiers, then you can go ahead and jump with a Lite plan. So which Patreon plan is actually right for you? When reviewing these Patreon plans, it can quickly become clear that you need to join the Pro or Premium plan to make the most out of the Patreon platform, but that might not actually be true, depending on you as a creator. But with that said, when it comes to what you will need to pay when using Patreon, there is more you should know about Patreon creator fees, as well as how they charge you additional payment processing fees as well. So for a full breakdown of the 3 different Patreon plans available, what features you get, what the pricing is, and how you can kind of pick the best one for you, I also have a full article about Patreon pricing and plans that you can check out above. So with that said, this last half of this video, what I would like to do is kind of give you an idea of what you should do once you've actually picked a platform. So the first step is really figuring out which platform you want to use. There's basically just some small changes between them. There's different focuses on the seriousness as well as the pricing, of course, and what you can offer. Once you've done that, what do you do after you've actually picked a platform? So let's go over that. So deciding which platform you want to use to run a membership program, accept donations, or simply monetize your art is really only the first step. Once you know what the platform you're going to use is you're going to need to learn how to do 3 specific things. First, you want to learn how to get supporters and build an audience that actually wants to support you. Second, you're going to want to learn how to create effective membership tiers. And 3, you're going to want to learn how to deliver on your promises to make sure that supporters keep coming back for more. If you don't have an audience of supporters, no one will ever see your membership. If you don't have membership tiers that your supporters are interested in, no one will ever join your membership. And if you don't deliver on your promises and consistently publish new content, then your supporters will stop coming back to your membership, and this will inevitably mean that they will eventually stop paying for it altogether. So this is why we're going to dive into these 3 things next. So how to get supporters and an audience that supports you. Whether you use Patreon or one of its many alternatives, you will need to have an audience that actually wants to support you if you want to make money on either platform. The best way to get Patreon supporters is to first build an audience and community around your art or creative endeavor off of your membership site, and to freely provide value to that audience and community with overwhelming value, really. Remember that most memberships don't have any discovery features, really, except for YouTube, so they won't be bringing in any new fans for you. Instead, they simply allow your current fans the opportunity to choose to support you financially. When you have an audience with an engaged community, only then will you be able to successfully grow your membership by offering them membership tiers that they actually want to join. If you want to learn a bit more about the strategy that I would recommend for getting Patreon supporters to grow an audience and a community, there will be a video right above that you can check out. So really, I think the main thing to know about this point before moving on is that Patreon doesn't have any discovery features. Ko-fi doesn't have any discovery features. Most of these have no discovery features. Like, just being on Patreon, Patreon's not going to be sending emails or has some kind of algorithm to recommend other creators to other supporters based on who they're creating. None of that stuff. It's going to be all on you to bring people over to your Patreon page or your membership page, and then it's going to be all on you to convince them to actually join. So I think that's very important to know when you're getting into this. So moving on, how do you create effective membership tiers? So at the end of the day, the main reason that anyone in the world is going to sign up for your Patreon or membership is if they completely understand how being a member benefits them and they feel like they are getting overwhelming value for that cost. The best way to create highly effective tiers for your Patreon or membership is by leveraging a concept that's already being used in marketing called marketing funnels or funnel mapping. By leveraging a marketing funnel, you can simplify what you offer and organize it in a way that is very easy for both you and your potential patrons to follow. So essentially, marketing funnel can be very simplified in this way, where there's 3 different steps in the funnel, and it's shown as kind of an inverted pyramid like that. At the top of the funnel, it's going to be what people are going to be taking the most, and it's going to be the least expensive offer. Things like, $1 to $5 for just simple support, maybe getting early access, those kind of things. Then it's going to move down into the second stage of the funnel, where this is going to be a bit more expensive. It's going to be around maybe $30 per month. It's going to get like bonus content, more access to you, those kind of things. And then at the bottom of the funnel, it's going to be very few people are going to take this offer, but it's going to be very high ticket offerings like $300 and higher, where they can get really a lot of access to you, maybe in terms of like one-on-one training, coaching, consulting, those kind of things. For a bigger, more detailed look into how you can create these individual membership tiers and learning about funnel mapping and how to create these really effective membership tiers, I will also put a video above where you can dive into that topic more. And lastly, you're going to want to learn how to build a content plan for your membership so that supporters actually keep coming back to it and want to keep supporting and paying for it over time. So if supporters don't feel like they are getting any use out of your membership because you aren't posting enough or aren't posting things that they enjoy, it's really no secret that they will eventually stop paying for it altogether. The best way to build a successful membership is to consistently release new content by combining a recurring content strategy with a content calendar. Recurring content allows you to build your audience over time, figure out how to optimize your membership tiers, and make sure your supporters keep coming back for more. If you want to learn more about how you can publish regular content that builds your audience and keeps supporters happy without completely stressing you out, I also have a video above that you can check out. It dives into creating recurring content strategy that kind of goes perfectly to your ultimate goals and how your workflow is as a creator, and how you can grab that recurring content strategy and start plotting it into what's called a content calendar, so that you're actually held accountable to pushing out that content and making sure that it comes out at the right times. So with that said, that is a big look at not just the different alternatives to Patreon that are out there and how they kind of compare to Patreon. you also have a good framework of what you're going to need to do after you've actually chosen out of the alternatives. So with that said, hopefully you found this video useful. The article that I mentioned will continually be updated as I research more and more Patreon alternatives. This is really just the start. I kind of picked the most popular ones to get started, and I know there's quite a few more, so I'll be making comparisons as well. With that said, hopefully you enjoyed this video. If you did, like and subscribe and all that good stuff. Good luck on picking the Patreon alternative of your choice and actually getting started with this kind of stuff. And I hope that the rest of what I went over in this video helps you move even further beyond picking that alternative and getting going, and actually helps you create something sustainable and something really awesome that you're proud of. Thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next video, my friend. Have a good one.